Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about My Hero Academia chapters 391 and 392. Couldn't do a review for 391 because I wasn't feeling it. 392 is a little bit late because I was really busy this week. But here we are, 391, 392. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on 391. I think like the most important things in terms of like the great, big strokes is Ochako just saying I think there's more to this whole love situation. It doesn't really change what Suyu ultimately said because Suyu, one of the big things that Suyu said is that a sudden shift in Toga's emotions could be the doom of us, and that is still I think very true. That said, I think 391. We all know which one it was. There weren't that many pages. Horikoshi was doing his best, but I do think 391. I know it's going to be okay when you're reading it in a volume, but I think 391 has some interesting little details that are worth keeping in mind. And, props to Horikoshi for trying to do his best with, like, limited resources and probably bad health, all that kind of stuff. So with 391, let's just go through something really quick. I'm not going to cover this one part. I'm not going to show it on the screen, but the ending page of 391 was indicating that Suyu got captured. So that was pretty good. In terms of 391, one of the big things I was kind of curious about is like how is Ochako going to escape being dogpiled by the Twices? 391 doesn't really bother answering that because it's not really important. At least Horikoshi doesn't think it's important. She just gets to escape the Twices somehow. Honestly, I have a big question about the Twices that we're going to talk about as we go into 392. We're looking at this page right here. One thing that I was kind of happy about that I only noticed on a second read through is this segment right here. This was always a question. In previous videos we've talked about it. What exactly is going on with the Twices? Was she actually making Twices? Or what was going on? With one of the previous chapters. Well, pretty much this one, we had the whole thing of like, why can't Toga become Jin, which was indicating that these clones were not the perfect ones that Toga can make. Honestly, the question of like, was it Toga or was it Twice, I just kind of forgot about it because we were doing other more important things. But yeah, I guess when we come back to this one, it's just really nice. It's nice that we got the clarification that, yeah, no, there is not a single Twice here. Because as the chapter says, Toga was making doubles of the version of herself that had transformed into Twice. Now, this explanation by itself kind of changes the whole equation, only in the case of the Togas and their transformation ability. With this, the earliest generation of Twices are going to be the first ones to run out of the blood. I think it's possible we're going to start seeing other Twices burst back into Toga the way that current Toga has done, but it's probably going to take a while. But still good to know. It's really good to have the clarification. Twice is not here. Twice is dead. What we have are versions. What we have are the doubles that we have are the versions of Toga that already transformed into Twice. That's actually, I think, the safest implementation because now you don't have to answer the question of like, oh, hey, when did she do the measurements for Twice? No, she never measured Twice. She measured herself transformed as Twice. Okay, good, great, awesome. Excellent. Is there any other thing that's really important? Let's just scan around. In 391, we see that the heroes got attacked. But, okay, so in 391, you saw the top of Suyu's head. In 392, you find out. And 392 is titled Villain Name. Let's get into the chapter. How am I going to tackle this? I'm going to talk about some big points, and then we'll just do a quick page-by-page walkthrough, like a more detailed one, and I'll highlight anything that I think is really cool. No, it's like there's a lot of really cool things in 392. My overall opinion of 392 is that the author did a really good job. I think, Toga is hard to work with in terms of like her destiny, and like she was never meant to be something great. She was meant to be a one-time villain. I think he's doing a lot with what he's got here. I respect the efforts. I know a lot of people are like really excited about the fight because Ochako got stabbed. I think like this is a good thing. I know like some people just want to see blood, but with Ochako getting stabbed, it's like, yeah, no, this is it's important that she gets penalized because she's not going to get penalized the entire way. It's just important that she gets penalized, just because what she's doing is fairly selfish. And when I say fairly selfish, I specifically mean she's trying to talk this girl down, and when you try to do that, the girl gets more opportunities to hurt people. That's what's really going on here. if this was not an idealistic world, every single person that the Twices capture would have their throat slit or would be dead by now, right? She's getting very, very lucky with what she's doing. Because right now, it is right now Prime Toga who is managing to stab. Although now, like, honestly, when you look at 391, it's like, if Toga's making copies of herself, why aren't all the Togas in a point of distress? Or you could say, like, maybe the distress only happens later, but then does that mean that all the Togas, all the twice copies, sorry, all the doubled Togas, are they going to start having an identity crisis the way that Prime Toga is having? You know, like, that's just the question in my head. Again, like, I'm just basing this all off of 391, because 391 is the one saying that, hey, yo, bro, Toga, like, Toga's only making copies of herself. Who's like, Toga's making copies of the her that transformed into Twice. Anyway, I think one of the big questions to really have here is, does Toga actually want to kill anyone? Ignore Prime Toga, because Prime Toga got pressured. Like, Ochako was putting her in Ochako was like confronting her, and Toga like freaked out, right? Let's put that aside. Does Toga really want to kill anyone? Like, really think about this, because the Twices keep feeling everyone up. It's not even the Twices. The Togas keep feeling everyone up, but they're not ending it. Does she actually want to kill people? And here's the thing: Pixie Bob got caught, but look at this page. What happened in this page? This is such a strange page. All of us, like, I went forward to quite a few pages here, but this is the one where, like, they suddenly shout. But look at what's going on. Like, there's a giant mass of earth popping up. For whatever reason, Kamui Woods and whoever else, they seem to, like, hit the ground hard here. But why is there still earth? Why is Pixie Bob still at play here? She got overwhelmed in 391. My big question to you guys is, like, yeah, do you think Toga actually wants to kill anyone coming into this? And mind you, like, we'll go into the chapter and I'll give you, like, some more little things here and there. But when I'm looking at this, Toga should have won this a long time. Suyu shouldn't be breathing. Pixie Bob, like, the moment that Tiger got held down, the Twices should have choked him or, like, stabbed him or just finished him off. Like, you have the Twice army, you have Twice Armageddon here, and you have Toga Bloodlust saying that all heroes must die. She's putting hands on so many heroes, but no significant hero has died, even though they should have. It just, to me, seems like Toga doesn't actually want to kill people. Which, when, you know, like, when it comes back to Ochako, like, it's just like, logically, this should be sorted out by now. Logically, like, no one should be left alive. People should have their kidneys, like, punctured by, like, multiple stab wounds by now. It's just like, yeah, it's just logistics. Logistics, you know, again, Hero Academia is an idealistic universe, so that's why, like, this is happening. But it's just, I wonder if Horikoshi is going to come in and say, like, Toga doesn't actually want to kill anyone that she doesn't love. Like, she doesn't want to, like, stab anyone she doesn't love. Actually, that doesn't even make sense, because, like, she does it in Villain Fight. Anyway, you know what? Let's do a page-by-page walkthrough. We'll talk about all the wonderful parts and all the like, weird parts. There's a few spots that I like. A lot of it's not really criticisms. A lot of it's just confusion. I'm just really confused about some of the things. But let's just get into it. So, first page, Toga saying, you don't know the first thing about me. What I want to say about this one, I like the little detail that she has a boob right here, and to me it kind of looks like she doesn't have the boob on the other side. So, like, it kind of fits. You know, you have one part of her disguise falling apart, and you still have the Twice bits. I actually like that. I wonder if this is what he's going for. The last time I saw this idea in anime, like, in terms of just recency, was Yu-Gi-Oh with Yubel, Yu-Gi-Oh GX. I like the design. I think this is really neat. Usually you get it with these kind of, like, above human characters, but this is just a transformation going wrong. Another good thing to point out is that when Toga's falling apart like this, it's usually because she's running out of blood. One of the big things we gotta see for the next Twices is whether or not the Twice are going to start popping like Toga does. Anyway, she caught Suyu. One of the questions I ultimately have going into this is this real Suyu? Now, the answer is yes, it's real Suyu. The reason you say it's real Suyu is because she has an internal monologue. There is no reason for Toga to be having an internal monologue there. That's real Suyu. She got caught at some point. Now, me personally, if I was Toga, I would have killed her a long time and shown Ochako Suyu's head. That's how that would have gone. instead of doing this little thing. Like, instead of having the twices bring her to just show Ochako, just show her the head, right? Like, just be brutal. Just be that next level villain. If you actually are a next level villain, that's what you do. There's no point in gloating. Like, you can gloat with her decapitated body. Like, that's the way to gloat. Anyway, again, idealistic universe. Okay, so this one is just Toga pretty much screaming into the ethers. She's just really upset because like Ochako and Suyu get to have a happy life and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, she's just she had a miserable life because people didn't understand her. Is pretty much what she's saying. Like, people just didn't get her, and her unique needs. Which, you know, we're about to step in some really nuanced territory. And like, honestly, with Horikoshi, the way he did it, I think was really good. I think like this is probably one of the best parts of the chapter. In all honesty, like the imagery is on a whole other level, and it makes me think things in a slightly different way that I kind of want to see paid off, and we'll get into it. So page 2 otherwise isn't that important because it's just Toga screaming. It's really good art though. Okay, so we go into this chapter. Okay, so we go into page 3, I think, or 4. Now, what's really cool here is really what's going on with the father and the mother. All right, so, man. Okay, let's get the timeline right. Okay, so this chapter is really a continuation of chapter 226, right? In a lot of ways, it's a continuation of 226, 225. In this chapter now, we see the whole thing with the bird. We saw the beginnings of this scene earlier. So, this is one of them. We see that Toga has the bird and she's sucking its blood. Now, I see no signs of that bird being alive when Toga gets it, right? You can't see it on the screen, but here's the shot of Toga telling her parents about the bird. Now, these parts were originally out of sequence when we were seeing the chapters back when they were released, but we know the next sequence in this event is Toga saying, "Look at this baby bird. It's so cute. It's so cute," she says about the dead bird, and with its blood on her lips. Okay, pretty concerning, pretty concerning. Like, at least in the way she sees death, very concerning. So then we come here, right? Now, I had a talk with one of the commenters, Jason Thomas, and we had great conversations. What I find really good about this scene, we saw what happened. She was standing, she showed that thing to her father, and now she is on the floor. Did she get hit? Did she get pushed? Did she get pushed away? At the end of the day, some kind of contact happened. The bird's on the ground, Toga's on the ground. What I really like here is how only the arm is lit up. The arm is the significant thing here. I think this is like visual language to say that that arm did something to Toga, whether it be a push or a strike to the floor. At the end of the day, this went from her standing in front of her parents to her with her back turned and on the floor. Maybe she got yelled at, but the lighting on the arm, I think there's a story that you could infer happened here. It doesn't really matter in the long run. It's up to you whether you want to interpret the art in any particular way. We move on. We have this thing where she killed that sparrow, sucked its blood, and now she's grinning about it. Over here, one thing to notice is that there is a scuff mark here, which usually would indicate someone being slapped. So that's probably what happened. Again, up to you if you want to interpret that way. Point is, she's crying. Now, here's where things get really, really cool, because the author really went a whole other level on this one. So she killed the sparrow and sucked its blood. Check this out, right? She says, no, the birdie just fell into the yard. What's really cool about that line is specifically what she's denying and what she's not denying. When you go back to the accusation, what she's denying is specifically, I killed that sparrow. So she's not saying anything wrong about the blood part. And what's really cool about that is, like, of course, she doesn't see anything wrong with the blood part. She's not lying about the blood part. She's telling the truth. Like, yo, bro, I didn't kill it. I just sucked its blood. So it's really interesting because it just shows where Toga's priorities were and what exactly her viewpoint on the whole situation was. So that was really, really cool. Love seeing that there. That was like a good level of nuance. We move into this part. Like, let's get you all reformed, nice and normal. Jason Thomas, because he was talking with me about this, he made the point that, you know, this isn't actually very scary. It's the mask imagery that makes this look very disturbing. And when we first found out about quirk counseling, I really thought, like, all right, is quirk counseling like really aggressive, like shock therapy? Because that's like the worst it could be. But when you have this kind of stuff, and you're not really seeing much here. It's like, okay. And then you have normal. So like we know with Toga, normal is like a villainizing word. Normal is like just it's icky for her. This is like everyone's trying to like beat you down to a certain standard. Cool. Now, me personally, like, I don't see anything wrong here. Like, if a psychologist tells you, let's get you all reformed, I don't think that's a bad thing. If you have a kid who is showing signs of, like, potentially, like, I'm going to go to the worst example, because this is, like, I know, like, this is, like, when you have these kind of kids in juvie, like, they're very disturbing. But, like, sex offenders who are, like, less than 12, if you saw the warning signs there, and you said, let's get you all reformed, like, in a therapy session, I do think, like, I don't think a good psychologist would use this kind of language, because I feel like, okay, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't really say, I'm not a therapist, so I can't really say anything about this, in terms of like, is this appropriate or not? Let's get you all reformed. I do think the nice and normal is probably the worst part. I think if you strip down, you just said like, let's get you all reformed, like this would just be a pretty mundane interaction, other than how scared the child is. But like at the same time, if you're showcasing some really disturbing traits, like what are you gonna do? Like at the end of the day, Toga can't be drinking people's blood. Like that ain't cool. Like that's their blood. It's up to them whether or not they want to share it with Toga. Like it's not like Toga does not have a right to that blood, right? Like, you gotta respect other people's bodies and their autonomy. Like, Toga cannot... If I tell Toga to not drink my blood, she's gotta respect that, right? So at the very least, she needs to learn to respect that. We move on. One of the things I like in this one, like, really it's a chapter of, like, little answers. This sort of deviant behavior is common in children with powerful quirks. So, when it came to Hero Academia, at the beginning, there were, or, like, post-Gentle, there were really only two people that you could say were like severely affected by their quirks, and that was La Brava and later on Toga, as we talk more about her compulsion to drink blood. So La Brava, we know what happens. She feels love so hard, it's part of her quirk power, and then she pretty much ends up like she didn't go to school, like she locked herself up, she became a neat pretty much. So we know that love and rejection, like she probably feels it more than other people. So this was really good because we finally got the confirmation. This has been something that we theorized for a very long time, and finally in the final moments we have it just thrown away here. It happens all the time in modern society. We'll be sure to iron it all out. Now what's unfortunate here, and like it does point, because we've talked about this before in like long past videos, that Hero Academia society doesn't seem to be very good at subtle deviances or invisible deviances, like the ones that happen in the mind. They seem to be very focused on the physical and accommodating the physical, and even then there's still problems there. Now honestly, that's a really good comparison or a really good parallel to our society. We might be getting better at addressing physical problems, but like because the nature of the mind is unknown, we still have a lot of trouble with mental deviances. And when we say mental deviances, we mean like, let's say that's just like mental deviances that lead into destructive anti-societal behavior, right? Cool, awesome. So that was cool. It was good to get the background. Honestly, best pages in the chapter by far. Very good. Maybe you don't care about it, but they are very significant in the amount of effort that went into it. Now, these next pages are, I think, quite good as well. I love what the author did here. So you can tell me whether or not you agree with it, but it's pretty cool. So on one side, you have a couple in love. They're holding hands, like an expression of love. On the other side, you have a man and him being slobbered up by his dog. Another expression of love. And in the middle, you have him, Toga. What is the pattern here? The inference is, here are people, here are their expressions of love. Toga's expression of love, sucking blood. Holding hands, slobbering, sucking blood. Okay, so like that's one thing the author did to establish what was normal for Toga. We have, again, there's no getting through to the girl, just act normal. Okay, we already talked about like how villainized like normal is in this. Like really, maybe the best way to like put this would be to just don't hurt other people and just don't suck the blood of other people. Honestly, letting her suck the blood of the bird might be like where you compromise on this. Although, actually, I would say, well, I don't know, like, does Toga have resistance to bloodborne illnesses? If she has resistance to bloodborne illnesses, I think it's okay to let her suck the blood of dead animals. I mean, like, you gotta compromise. If we have it on paper that quirks are compelling certain behavior, then, like, compromise is not their fault, and, like, there's no one's getting hurt unless she's actively going out and killing the actually. What would be the difference between, like, Toga killing an animal and, like, Toga killing an animal at a slaughterhouse to get its blood? Well, you don't want to do it. You like, well, okay, killing an animal is disturbing, and that's why people are vegans and vegetarians. So yeah, you wouldn't want to do it in public. But like, if you have a goat or you have a chicken and you take it to your backyard and you chop its head off and you drink its blood, honestly, you should be allowed to do that. I know in the islands you're allowed to do that. So like, honestly, nothing wrong with that. As yeah, again, I really think that there were some compromises that could have been done here. Of course, though, like as she hits puberty and like feelings start to happen, and she starts mixing that bloodlust with romantic feelings and hormones. Like, man, come on, everyone's felt anger, like incredible anger when they were younger. If you like you mix all those volatile emotions together, then you have a real problem. So yeah, like this would probably a controlled environment is probably what you need here. Okay, we move on. We got Himiko. They told me you drank your friend's blood, and again we see something that we saw the author use earlier. So here is where we get like a more of a lie. She talks about how the friend got hurt and she was just sucking on the ouchie. Okay. She's still speaking like a child. We see her here. She's got a lot of blood on her. She asked a really good question, like, why does nobody else suck blood like me? It's because like you are different and you have an individuality that leads you to do that. Going back here, this incident seems to be before the middle school incident, because in the middle school incident, she used a box cutter and cut open her friend. So again, like that's not a good thing, right? Like Toga wants to suck blood, but like she does not need to cut people up to do it, right? So we have this moment here where we gave birth to something inhuman. I think this was a really good panel, and I actually really like seeing the tears, because like this is a very tough situation, and it's just cool to see it. In a lot of ways, this is like a regurgitation again, because we are following on from 390. Oh, sorry, we're following on from the Curious chapters. Now this is a page that I really liked, but it kind of depends on your interpretation of it. Like my interpretation is a little bit different than I think what is most likely happening. So what is most likely happening is that when you look at the dialogue, this is the exact dialogue that Curious told Toga in her chapters, which again reinforces this is a follow-up from those chapters. White Despair is the one that pointed out this is the exact dialogue from that time. This is a flashback. People are also saying like this is a vestige. This isn't a vestige. This is like a flashback. This is the devil on Toga's shoulder, in a way. Here's the interpretations I'm going to give you. The first interpretation is that this is all just a recollection, just reminding us where we are with the situation, pretty much summarizing what happened to Toga after the incident where she gets called the demon. She pushed it all down, suppressed herself and created a mask, and became someone else entirely. And this leads into her middle school phase of attacking her buddy and sucking his blood, looking really weird, and then she like goes on the run, right? Okay, so that's just the quick summary. Now, my interpretation of the events has to do with this mask and the placement of the mask. I don't mind if I'm wrong, but I would like to be right. Like I said, I think White Despair's interpretation is probably most likely going to be correct. What I like about this page is, well, first off, I would just want to point out this is a copy and paste. This panel of Toga is a copy and paste of this panel. He just kind of copied it and just kind of scaled it up a little bit. The reason you can tell is because like if you look at little parts like this, they show up right there. Like it's the same patterns. Nothing wrong with that. You gotta save time wherever you can. Now, when I look at this, suppressing yourself and creating a mask, what I find interesting is the way the mask is placed. The mask is only over the Toga portion of her head. It's not actually covering the Twice mask, because the Twice mask is already a mask. When I first saw this, without thinking about like this was just a direct summary and reminder of that chapter, is that villain Toga, the Toga that is currently angry right there, villain Toga is also a mask. I think that Toga is still very much the hurt child asking why doesn't anyone suck blood the way I do. And then I think she just put away all the pain and just put on this mask and just said, I'm just going to keep trying to do whatever I want. But I think there's still some inner turmoil. The thing with Toga is that entering this war, she was like Spinner. She was like, the reason she's in this war is because they've already gone too far to stop. So to some degree, I really wonder, like, are we going to head into a spot where like Toga just says like she doesn't really necessarily want to be a villain, but it's just where she ends up being because of her impulses. I wonder if that's where we're going. And I mean, like, again, like the support, like what we've seen of Toga so far, like her talk with Toya back before the war started, really does just point to like what they've gone too far and she can't stop anymore. Anyway, that's one interpretation. Might be wrong, but I just thought the imagery was really cool, so I just wanted to put that out there. The thing with this one is like if it's true, it would justify why like the Twices aren't being more bloodthirsty or more effective, or why, you know what, we shouldn't be calling them Twices. Why the Togas disguised the Twices aren't being more effective, even though they're all wanting to kill the heroes. Anyway, we go back into real time. Those are like the biggest parts of the chapter, so we should be able to go a little bit faster here. Toga gets pulled off. We see Ochako. Now, this is where the confusion starts. So you have Tsuyu here. Blood's gone out, so that justifies how Tsuyu gets her, like how there are Tsuyus involved in the cloning process. The Tsuyu goes out. The Tsuyu gets stabbed. We go into, like, if you look at the way the page is structured, she's directly down. Like there's an easy way to read it. Tsuyu's falling, and then Jiro's trying to catch her. My big question is, and this is just where things get confusing in the chaos of just the choreography. Where was Jiro that she somehow lost track of Tsuyu, so much so that Tsuyu is on the other side? Like, what? I wish we could have seen the entire situation. Like, how did she miss that? That's what I just end up wondering. Because the way the page is constructed, it forces the reader to assume that that Tsuyu is the same as the one that's right above her, just by using, it's like pretty much taking advantage of your natural bias on how you want to read something. So I just find it unfair. Like, in terms of a spectacle, like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but like logically, where was Jiro looking that she didn't see that? Like, what was she looking at? And mind you, you can justify it. You just have to, like, be creative in how you justify it. It's just like I just end up confused, and I don't really like those kind of misdirection tactics. But you could say, like, well, Toga's the expert of misdirection. Is she the expert of misdirection when she's currently being countered, though? Like, there's little things like that. Okay, so we move on. We find out that the Toga situation is much more complex than we thought. We see that there's a bunch of doubles. We see that there's a Toga mixed in there as well. We see that Jiro got doubled. The interesting thing about Jiro, right, is that even if she, like, when did she drink the blood? Okay, logistically, again, it's one of those logistical issues. I don't believe that Jiro is still bleeding such that this girl was able to, like, hold out her tongue like she's catching a snowflake and get a drop of blood. I don't believe that, personally. But whatever, the author wants to do that, he can go ahead and do that. It's just showing the overwhelming thing. And yeah, I remember in the live stream on yesterday that we had a little thing of, like, just wondering, or just in general, people were questioning what was going on with this panel. Like, why are there Togas mixed in there? But now that we know that all the Twices are Togas, just pretending to be Twice, or, like, yeah, just doing their thing, we know how we got here. Okay, so we move on and we go into that really confusing panel again, where Kamui Woods pretty much gives us the rundown that shit sucks, and then he somehow, like, just gets caught up in this whole little thing here, which, again, I don't know what's happening here, but Pixie Bob still seems to be doing stuff, even though they get squished. And after that, for whatever reason, we end up in a surge of Twices also. Like, look at that face, man. Like, what is going on there? It looks so warped. I can't tell what's going on. It's just weird, man. Like, it looks like a fish. Anyway, Tsuyu gets caught up in a Twice wave. I don't know how this all happened. It just doesn't make sense to me. Tsuyu has her character defining moment of like I thought following the rules. I thought this was a really black and white situation. One thing that I like here is that you have Tsuyu shouting at Toga, but this isn't Toga. Like, shouting at her, this isn't a shadow clone situation. Shouting at her does nothing. So there is a level of cynicism here, because, like, in a way, like, Tsuyu's just screaming to the ethers. Now, if this is all Toga, measured at a very particular point, that means that Tsuyu very well could go through her own little chat with clone Toga to try and just calm her down. Anyway, the point is, like, telling a clone to listen to what Ochako is saying is pretty useless when you have real Toga over there with Ochako. So this is probably one of the most... This is a really good penalty, because it's like, that's a waste of time, Tsuyu, because you're not talking to the problem. You're addressing the... You're addressing the effect, you're not addressing the cause. So we have this stab here. It's a war, so, like, yeah. For me personally, I look at this and I feel like, okay, Eri's pretty much justified. Eri's gonna come in here. I think everyone's gonna get saved by an Eri blast. What's that gonna lead us to? I don't know, but maybe it'll lead us into Shigaraki Hand Monster creating clones of everything, and then heroes having to fight random things to prevent Shigaraki, blah 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 blah. We can come up with a lot of endgame scenarios to justify everyone getting one last fight in here. Anyway, she gets stabbed. People rejoice because it makes the fight feel more real, because it's not just Ochako somehow escaping giant dog piles and swinging around the battlefield doing nothing. It's actually like, yeah, like this is going to be a full-on thing. I do wonder if the blood is under the effects of zero gravity, because I wonder what the effects would be, but it looks pretty brutal. Blood has gone up her nose. Um, Overall, like that. And I think it was pretty cool too, and this is what happens. Like, overall, I. Oh, you know what? To talk about something I saw in comments in general, people keep saying, like, isn't this what we want? Isn't this, we want heroes who want to save villains, not just put them away? And, people that speak like that, they speak in an ideal world. Because the heroes aren't professional psychologists. Are you a professional psychologist by going through 1 year of high school? No. You think you're good at what you're doing? Probably not. Have these heroes ever worked at a suicide prevention center or a suicide hotline? The things that they tell you to do at a suicide hotline, you'd be very surprised with the kind of things you are not allowed to say to people who are suicidal. So it's very disingenuous to say that heroes should be therapists, especially after 1 year of high school. That doesn't make sense. That's actually very irresponsible. No. That's not the world we live in. Maybe only 1% of high schoolers are ever capable of doing that. But one of the things here is that when you come down to it, the people who could take the time to try and de-escalate a villain, fundamentally, are people who are powerful or stupid. If you have infinite resource and infinite time, then 100% go ahead and try to save Toga. The thing here is that this is the real world where there are constraints. Ochako does not have infinite time. She does not have infinite resources. People might be dying while she's trying to talk this girl down. So the people that go out and say that, isn't this what you want? Well, no. Like this, there are priorities here. If trying to save Toga gets 200 innocent people killed, this isn't a fair exchange. That isn't fair at all. Like, welcome to life. Life is hard. You got to make choices, right? That's what it all comes down to. In a vacuum, you can have an ideal hero. In a pragmatic war, there's no such thing as an ideal hero. Unless you're overpowered. Only the overpowered characters can do this. And mind you, that overall struggle of trying to save someone, even though you don't have the resources to it, is one of the things that make power fantasy like really popular. It's one of the things that make isekai really popular. It's because you can do these really, I don't want to call it selfish, but it's something like similar to the feeling. This is self-righteous. You can do these really self-righteous things because you have the resources to protect everyone else while you're doing it. That's why when it comes to Toga, there's really nothing wrong with subduing her and putting her away and talking her down when she's in a safe place where she can't hurt anyone else. Sorry, that's the compromise you gotta make. Now, on the flip side of that, we're already too far gone. Like, the time to subdue Toga was when Izuku was there. Izuku had Black Whip on her. He should have taken the moment to break her legs. Because that would have given Ochako a massive advantage, and it would have taken, like, with his power, only a few moments. But now that we're in this stage, honestly, Ochako is the best shot you got. You have to de-escalate Toga. You have to de-escalate her, and you have to talk her down, because that's the only way you're going to stop this whole thing. Unless Ochako gets some kind of multiplication on her gravity instead of zero gravity, that might be the other way to do it, because the twice are not durable enough. Now, on that note, if Ochako's close to death, we're going to get absurd power in a crisis, and you get to have Ochako multiplying gravity and stopping Toga altogether and restraining her. Ooh, lightning. The best thing about... The best thing about that implementation is that you respect Toga's character. You ultimately have a situation where Ochako could not talk to Toga properly, and she had to restrain her. But then there's the opportunity to talk to her more in a safe environment later. So that's all the stuff that kind of goes into this. And honestly, when it comes down to the people who are super idealistic about these kind of things, they're very lucky that Hero Academia is not going to show the consequences of being self-absorbed or like being this greedy. I don't have the proper word for this, but this is a very difficult situation. They're very lucky that Hero Academia wouldn't show the consequences of trying to save one person, while that one person is also causing massive mayhem. But again, remember, this is the only choice they have at this point. Ochako is their only choice. Again, the part where this would have been fixed would have been having Izuku disable Toga to a degree to help Ochako be able to catch her later. Now, we move over to this part, and there's just something really funny, alright? You know, like, Toga's a murderer. And the part, like, it's just the way some people phrase it. Like, some people say, oh, Toga attacked everyone, and she also sexually assaulted someone. And I'm thinking like, bro, like really? It's the sexual assault that takes her to the next level, huh? That's what takes her to the next level. Like personally, in a fight, I don't see anything wrong with that. That's just part of the fight. I don't know why she's I don't know why she's gripping. Well, actually, manhandling. I don't know why she's manhandling Ochako's boob so much, and like have that superimposed with. I don't get to feel a lick of that. Come on, come on, Horikoshi. Why? Why is there always a like some level of uncomfortable subtext with Toga and Ochako? Like, why is she cupping a feel? Now, mind you, like you could be saying like she's cupping a feel because like she wasn't happy enough with just rubbing her head in Ochako's cleavage. Like that wasn't good enough for her. She needed to go all the way, right? Like, sure, gotcha. You know, there's a level of sexuality with Toga all the time, but it's just funny. It's just funny how some things work. Now, at the end of the chapter, we end off with a villain name of your own. I'm actually really excited about that. I wonder if she's just gonna go with a simple name like Toga or Twice. I wonder what it's gonna be. It's gonna be vampire. It's gonna be cute. Is it gonna be adorable? What's her name gonna be? You know, and I kind of like it because I wonder if that's her doubling down. I want to see her double down. I want to see her stay Toga. I want to see like that hard reality of sometimes people are just the way they are, and no amount of talking to them is gonna change them just like that. But it might be a start. I want to see what's gonna happen there. But like this is very exciting because a villain name sounds like it's about to double down. I can't wait to see what rhetorics are going to come out here. Horikoshi said that he spent a lot of time writing these sequences. And so far, seeing the integration of the art with the wording, I mean, like, again, she doesn't get to feel a lick of that. It just gets me excited about the rhetoric that we're going to see. And I just kind of want to see if we're going to go to a part where we ultimately see that Toga doesn't want to be a villain either, but it's just where she got put. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought down below. Let me know if you have any clarifying remarks. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.